Hi everyone, it's Kara. I did a video yesterday showing the junk journal that I finished, and I had a few questions about how I made this pocket, how I did the embossing. So I thought I would do a quick video showing everybody how I did it. I know there are some people out there that don't do a lot with embossing because it seems like it's kind of complicated or a little scary. It's actually not. It's pretty easy. I thought I would review really quickly the materials that you needed, just so everyone was prepared if they wanted to do it. So I use Versamark when I emboss because I like to use the colored embossing powders. This is probably one of my all-time favorites, this pewter Zing embossing powder. I have a couple other Zing ones and I love them. I know that they work really well. And I have some from Lindy's Stamp Gang, like this one, Magic Moon Pearls, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It works really well as well. I do have a couple of the Recollections embossing powders, but I haven't used those yet, so I can't comment on how good or bad they are. But they are available over at Michael's. So in addition to these things, then you just need whatever stamp you're going to use, whatever you use to clean your stamps, and then a heat tool of some kind. So at some point this video will get a little bit noisy, just so you're prepared. For the basic embossing, I'm going to just use this pocket, which is from Cat Scrappiness. It's what I used on the front of the junk journal. I love this pocket. It's absolutely adorable. This is just craft cardstock. You know, not too thick, not too thin, just basic craft. You can emboss on chipboard or pattern paper, whatever you wanted. And I wanted to kind of show you before I do it what it's going to look like. So after I stamp the image, and I'm going to use the same script, the image first looks like this. Hopefully you can see it. This is after you put the powder on it, the embossing powder, but before you heat it. So you can see it's darker. Then once you heat it, you get this really pretty shiny silver raised image on the paper, okay? So let me show you how I do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the same stamp, which is this huge Impression Obsession script stamp. I love these background stamps because they are so huge. I think they're like 5 by 5, something like that. Let me look. Because they're so big, almost 6, more like 5 3/4. Because they're so big, I don't use a block for them. I just make sure I cover it really well with the Versamark. Stamp all over it, get it nice and covered. And then I'm going to take what I want to stamp, and I do this even when I'm just regularly stamping something with these big background stamps. And I'm going to lay it down, keep it in one spot, and then just make sure that I press everywhere so it gets a nice image on the paper. You got to make sure, obviously, that you don't move it around. Okay. Then you're going to take it off and move the stamp. So here's what the watermark looks like on its own. Watermark ink. Then you're going to put whatever embossing powder you're using all over the stamped image. I know a lot of people will use like a little Tupperware Rubbermaid container with a lid. I think that would be great if you are going to use colored inks and just stick with like a clear embossing powder. I don't do that, so I don't put them in containers because I would need too many. Then you have to tap off all of the excess. There's one little spot that wants to stick on there. If you have that happen, let me see if I can grab it. You can kind of see right in there where I have some extra. I have a small little brush that I actually use. Little paintbrush to try and get that off. I'll show you. Where I just very lightly kind of loosen it up a little bit. I don't have to do this too often. Normally it works pretty well, but you know, of course, because I'm trying to film it, I had a problem. So anyway, that's the basics of getting it on there. Then you're going to want to put all of your embossing powder either to the side or away, because you're going to be using, you know, a tool that's going to blow hot air. And if you blow air all over that embossing powder, you can imagine the mess it will make. So there's that. And now comes the kind of noisy part, so be prepared. And hopefully you can hear me, and you'll hopefully be able to see it change when it warms up to that silver. And there it goes. And you just make sure you keep moving it so you don't burn the paper or yourself. And as it changes colors, you just keep moving it all on. You can use tweezers if you want to hold on to this. As you can see, it doesn't take too terribly long to get it embossed. And hopefully you could see the change and hear me. So that's what it looks like. So like I showed you before, it went from this kind of dark powdery look to the finished silver one. Now if you're going to do anything else to this like I did, you're going to want to let it dry just a little bit. Not, you know, not dry necessarily, but cool. And then what I did to make that pocket was I took some distress ink. In particular, this time I took Faded Jeans and used my tool. Oops. Sorry guys, I'm trying to work around the little tripod I'm using. Just make sure there's some ink on the pad, and then I just start covering the whole thing like this. And the ink should mostly just cover the paper and leave the parts that you have embossed alone. And I just cover it all the way around, you know, as much as I want, okay? Now you could obviously make this as dark or as light as you wanted to. I covered the whole thing, obviously, to give it kind of that denim look. If you wanted to, when you're embossing, you don't have to do this extra step. You could just leave it like this, and I have done that from time to time. But it's just a really simple and easy technique. It looks great on cards and layouts, inside minis, that kind of thing. And as you can see, it's pretty simple and basic. You just need a few tools like the right ink, some embossing powder, whatever stamps you want to use, and a heating tool. So hopefully this shows you how simple this technique is, and you can add it to all of the things that you already are doing when you make your crafty projects. So there's kind of the finished look. Once again, this was a Cat Scrappiness pocket from her store, and I will put a link to that below. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. I'm, you know, relatively new to doing the tutorial videos, so hopefully I gave you the basic information you need so that you can do this yourself. As always, thanks for watching. Bye.